My name is Teresa McDermott, and I host a series of talks at the Gainsborough Hotel in Bath called Phenomenal Women. This series has been running for 3 years and has been a series inspired by women talking to us about thoughts and ideas to share. Whilst the hotel is closed, I thought I would invite you to join me in a virtual event, hearing from past or new phenomenal speakers, or sharing their thoughts, wisdom, and compelling insights. Eva Hamilton joined us in January this year, and I'm delighted that Eva has agreed to join us again. Eva has pioneered social projects after her first experience at 18, working in Kolkata at Mother Teresa's Home for the Dying. On returning to the UK, Eva joined Business in the Community, headed by Prince Charles, and set up Business Action on Homelessness. This was subject to a BBC Two programme, and she was awarded an MBE in 2005. Eva went on to found Key for Life in 2012, helping young offenders through mentoring and other support to find a new path forward. Today's in conversation with, firstly introduce Liam and also Jamie. Liam has spent 6 years of his young life locked up, and after Key for Life has very successfully turned his life around. And Jamie will talk about horses and how that's helped him move through difficult times. So I'd like to hand over to Eva, Liam, and Jamie, who will share their thoughts and ideas. Thank you.
Teresa, thank you so much. And it's a great honor for all of us to be here with you today. And I also very much enjoyed doing the speech earlier this year. I just wanted to firstly say that, yeah, we have got 2 exceptional young men with us tonight. Liam I've known for many years, and Jamie. They're 2 men that we've had I think we've helped turn their lives around, but actually it's been them who have done it, and they have extraordinary stories. So I'm going to get straight into asking Liam, firstly, a couple of questions, really. And Liam, you know, you've had an amazingly colourful life. What I'd like to, I always think the one thing you shared with me when you were 4 years old, how you had to feed yourself, was something that always has stuck with me. Do you want to share with people what life was like in your early years?
Yeah, hello everyone. My name's Liam. I'm 26 years old. Yeah, my childhood seemed normal to me really, but obviously growing older I realised it weren't normal. Touching on what you just said then, Eva, feeding myself, that was totally normal. Me and my little brother, we used to take food from our godmother's house, and truth be told, she always knew we'd done it, which she told us, but she gave us food, and yeah, she really looked after us. So it's just, yeah, that was a normal for us really. My mum was an addict, my father was an addict, so that broke up when I was younger. We moved to Birmingham. As the addiction got worse with my mum, she was taking heroin and crack cocaine. She got into a lot of domestic abusive relationships, which I was subject to witness with my younger brother Jake. So yeah, childhood, that was just, yeah, that was a normal for us really. And then getting older, we realised it weren't normal so much when we were getting bullied for things like having holes in our clothes and having bad shoes and not being washed properly and so on. So yeah, as I grew older, I wanted to change that. So I started getting involved with crime, which later led on to me getting a 6-year prison sentence, which is when I then met you guys, Eva.
Can I just jump in there just for a second? Because on your extraordinary, colourful life that you've led, it always tell everybody, why were you the fastest runner in the Southwest?
Oh, well, that was because the police could never catch me, and they tried many times. That was why, yeah, the amount of times I'd be chased as a young boy was ridiculous. Yeah, I also had, when as I got older and my mum got into rehab and stuff, she met a good man then, and I had deadlines to be home for, otherwise I'd be grounded. And the road I had to run was 1.2 miles. I'd run that 6 times a day. So yeah, that's how that happened.
How did you get spotted, and where was it you got spotted as the fastest runner in the Southwest?
Oh, so that was at Area Sports when I cleaned the Millfield runners up 2 years in a row.
That's right.
First time they thought it was a fluke, second time they realised it wasn't.
And so tell us what then happened. What did Millfield do then when they saw you beat all their kids for the second time?
Oh, well, they wanted to offer me a scholarship, which I couldn't afford because at the time my mum was in rehab. So, yes, so it still wasn't an option because it's a lot of money. That was, a hell of a lot of money to us. And, so they made another offer, which we could then afford. And it was short-lived anyway because I was caught smoking the first day I was there. And then the second day, the same teacher caught me smoking again. So, I kindly walked myself outside and returned to Sydenham.
Yeah. So you had to go back with your head down walking through your estate with everybody knowing that your greatest opportunity had just been blown out. But to be honest, I didn't really know what opportunity was there when it happened. It was just one of them things, really. And it was, everything happens for a reason, so march on. Absolutely. And I would say everything does happen for a reason. You're absolutely right. And what was even more extraordinary is when you went back to Millfield School with us a couple of years ago, that must have been a funny feeling looking at the 1,000 children or young people listening to you.
Yeah, that was brilliant. Yeah, it's phenomenal being able to complete the circle almost.
Great. Well, listen, I'm going to jump on to Jamie and then we'll come back to the prison. So Jamie, just give us a little bit of an introduction, just a brief introduction about yourself and how life was for you growing up.
Okay, sure. I'm Jamie. I'm 26 years old too. I grew up here. My mum was in a lot of domestic abusive relationships too. My dad was also an addict. And growing up was very unstable. I was quite often quite scared, to be honest, as a kid. Didn't really have that much of a stable upbringing. And that sort of turned me to drugs, and I heavily relied on drugs to sort of get through it. Like all through high school, I was taking like speed and a lot of other stuff just to try and take my mind off of stuff, smoking a lot of pot. It sort of caught up to me, and I got some serious mental health issues because of it. Or it certainly didn't help what issues I did have, and that ended up me isolating myself for a good 3-4 years, not being able to leave my flat, being too paranoid to take my rubbish out. Being super aggressive to anyone because I thought everyone was out to get me, that sort of stuff. Until picking up, and within 6 months of Key for Life, I got my first proper job, and I was in that for a year and a half. I discovered a really big passion of mine, which is horses. Which is amazing, and
Great, and I'm going to come back to that in just a minute. Sure. So fantastic, both of you. I mean, it's very interesting because I've had similar. I also had addiction in my family and a lot of abuse and all of that. So and violence around you. So it's quite interesting that all three of us have had similar upbringings. Liam, what I'd like to ask you now is obviously with the lockdown and COVID-19 and everything that's going on in this world. I'd love you just to touch on, obviously you went to prison, you've been in many prisons, you've been in, and what I would like to ask you really is just how you have coped with COVID-19, but also in relation to what have you taken from when you were in prison to be able to cope the way you have, and maybe sharing with people out there who, as we come out of COVID, are, getting quite nervous. So just tell me a little bit about some of your strategies to cope.
Yeah, definitely, Eva. So basically, it's a situation of everyone's waiting for lockdown to end. What I learned to do during my time inside, and even now in this period of lockdown, is to prepare for it to end. So put things in place for when the start over begins, for when lockdown finishes. People's worried about it being uncertain and worrying about uncertainty. Try not to worry about that, and just make the things as certain as can be in the future during this time.
And just tell me, in your cell, because, you know, for many people listening to this interview, they don't know, you know, maybe just explain what, you know, what is it like? How big is your cell? What's in your cell? Do you share it with anyone else? What was your coping strategies when you were in lockdown for a long time? Because it's different to what we're going through here.
Yeah. So yeah, like I said, I spent just short of 6 years locked up in 12-foot by 8-foot cells, usually sharing it with another man, someone that you wouldn't know at first. So you wouldn't know exactly what sort of headspace he was in when he was arriving. So it could be very, very volatile situations. So some of the things that I developed for myself while all this mad stuff was going on around me, just like it is now, is just to develop a structure and a routine. So I'll try and develop myself through education, through reading, through being creative, writing music. And I'd go to the gym, I'd do press-ups, sit-ups, pull-ups and so forth for myself. I'd eat the right things. And out of these consistent things that I'm committing to, I'd create a structure and a routine which helped pass the time by and make it more productive for myself.
Great, beautiful. That's Liam. There's some fantastic tips in there. And I know being in prison, you know, obviously you were there for a long time. You get pretty institutionalized, but being locked away for 23 hours, which many in weekends and during the week, you'd often be locked away for long periods, right?
Yeah. Yeah, most of my sentence was spent typically on like 23 and a half hour lockups, because I'd be on losses most of the time. So I wouldn't be working. So I'd literally be behind my door, and I'd be allowed out for half hour a day to have a shower and make a phone call to my loved ones. Well, that was until I met Keith for Life, of course. But yeah, so yeah.
Great. Well, Liam, that is a great insight to people who don't really understand what it's like for all of you guys who get put in prison. Jamie, I just wanted to ask you, so clearly with you, just explain to the listeners how life has been for you in lockdown, because you locked yourself away for 3 years.
Yeah.
And just explain how was it this last period for you?
It's interesting hearing Liam speak, because I'm completely opposite. I was self-imposed. My lockdown, self-imposed for 3-4 years. And with this lockdown, unfortunately, I've found myself falling into really old, destructive habits. So, like I sort of let my life go to pieces. Before I was really active, I had 6 days a week job, which was really physical. So I was in good shape. I was eating well. That all went out the window.
Were you furloughed?
I was furloughed, yeah. So
yeah.
I'm employed, but it's
furloughed.
It's a big difference from going from like a really busy job to absolutely nothing. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I unfortunately turned to drinking to sort of cope. Super suicidal. Every day I was thinking about it. When I was at my worst, it was really, really bad. So yeah, lockdown has been very hard.
Tell me, because obviously, you know, we've played quite a role in the past. Tell me in the last month how you've tried to turn that around, and what have you done?
So the last month has been a pretty amazing turnaround, really. My loved ones, my mum got behind me, and Eva, being the wonderful woman that she is, she really got behind me as well, and she invited me out here when I was feeling really low, and she just she got me on a horse, which is with me the best thing to do, and sort of slowly talked through my problems with me, and slowly built up a plan, and slowly built up a routine, and I know I've got this place to come to During lockdown, it's nice and open, and it's exactly what I need. So it's been really good.
And I think you're very modest to say that, you know, you absolutely, that horse in you unlocked so much that horse now, you and Carlos, and we've even had a film made of you, you connected to him and joined up with him in a way that I've never seen anyone do that.
Yes, I'm a novice basically in the riding world. I've only been riding for a year and a half, and to have a big mammoth horse like Carlos down on the bit, and all the riders listening will know, the first time you get your horse on the bit is sort of a eureka moment. It's like, wow, you know, it's like a milestone in your journey, and yeah, it was pretty special, really.
Super. Well, that just, Jamie, is beautiful. So Liam, what I'd just like to ask you both finally really is just the tips that you know, is there one thing that what would be the biggest bit of advice? I mean, Liam, it'd be great for you just to conclude with what you're now doing, because you're doing some great stuff. Maybe just quickly, let's talk, because we've talked about what Jamie's up to, but do you want to share with us very quickly what you're up to now?
Yeah, so my life now is completely uncomparable to how it used to be. So right now I'm like flat out basically, even though there's a lockdown going on. I'm busier than I've ever been, doing the work for Yo Valley, who I work for, doing the bits for Key for Life, and really just still giving my bit back to the community. I've got a beautiful house now, an absolute beautiful girlfriend to share it all with. I've got my driving license. So it's all massive milestones what I've achieved in the 2.5 years since I've been released. And yeah, it's unbelievable to think I've done it, and I'm just so grateful for the second chance and for the opportunities given by you, Eva, Key for Life, Yo Valley, and everyone who's listening to this that wants to be a part of it, that wants to be the change that they wish to see. So yeah, it's brilliant. Thank you,
Liam. Thank you. And is there one little bit of advice or anything you'd like to share with people out there in relation to lockdown and how they're going to cope with their future?
Yeah, just don't worry about it too much. Just take it day by day, step by step. Make sure that the basics are ticked, like having a wash in the morning. That might sound basic to everyone, but it isn't basic to everybody. And just get a plan in your head of what it is you want. Visualize your future, and don't only visualize it, but put intent into that vision, and try and make things happen. Don't just sit around and wait for things to happen. Prepare, put yourself in the right places at the right times when you've got the opportunity to do so. Like right now, you could be discovering what it is you want to do and using this time in a productive way. So just back yourself, always believe in yourself, and no matter what anyone tells you, never give up, because you can achieve anything.
Great, Liam, what wonderful advice. Thank you so much. And Jamie, what advice would you like to share with the listeners?
Look after yourself, basically, whether that be physically or mentally. The only person who can sort of really put you in a bad place is you. So whether that's getting up every morning at a certain time, getting yourself into routine, like Liam said, planning for the future, because this isn't going to be forever. And you know, the sky's the limit. You can do whatever you want. So
thank you.
Go for it.
Yeah. Liam, Jamie, absolutely wonderful. You have given everybody I know really, really huge insights, both to your own lives, but what you guys have achieved, and it's just remarkable. And I think you're both an inspiration to everybody out there. So they're going to be all very excited to hear what you have to say. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Eva.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Jamie.
Thank you, Teresa, as well. Thank you,
much.
Teresa.
Yeah.
All right.
Bye-bye.
All right, bye-bye, guys. See you soon. Take care. Take care.
Bye. Well, they're very inspiring young men. Goodness.
I know.
Both
Aren't they
have
wonderful?
yeah, very difficult life experiences, and yet they're both kind of being able to sort of take it in their stride and look on the bright side. Goodness.
I know
So,
you're
Eva, it's now an opportunity for us to chat a bit, and obviously we've just come out of lockdown, and we're just moving into sort of this tentative kind of, something's opening, something's not, something's going back in to lockdown. It's a very, very, very challenging time, and I don't know what your thoughts are about it, particularly like for people who've been furloughed, now going back to work, maybe not sure about what the future holds. It's full of uncertainties, isn't it?
It's hugely uncertain. Yeah, I think it's a challenging time, but it's also a time, I think, of great change and opportunity. But I think the fear is probably, for me, the bit that we all have to be so careful about, because, as I say, fear is false evidence appearing real. And I think a lot of us can get caught up in fear. I think the bit about the uncertainty is absolutely right. We hear things on the news. One minute we think everything's looking good, then we're hearing Leicester's been shut now again. We're hearing about the furloughing. People are being asked to go back to work. Some people, I spoke to lawyers and others today, they say they're not back till October. I ran a workshop with Schroders, a big company, this afternoon with lots of companies on it, and lots of them aren't going back to their offices till next year. So even though they haven't been laid off, they're all working from home. So I think there's a massive amount of uncertainty, and I think it's not helped by the mixed messages that are being put out on the media. I think that can be very, very confusing for people. Even Greece, holiday travel, one minute people are rushing out to go to Greece next week, and then they're suddenly told, no, you can't come for another 2 weeks. Not that I'm necessarily advocating we should all go on holiday, but even that's a mixed message.
Yeah. How do you think people should try to kind of manage their way through these coming weeks and months? Because it's not straightforward, is it? It's not.
It's not straight. I think, Teresa, for me, I've had, bouts of darkness and depression over my, due to some of the things I've been through when I was younger. And I think the hardest thing is that when you start slipping into those black holes that are so easy to slip into, before you know it, your life can look very dark, and you yourself can feel that you've lost your purpose, you don't know what to do, and you can feel helpless. And I think in moments like that, for myself, what I try and do is bring everything into the now. Because what I find is that if I dwell on the past too much or worry about the future, I lose my grounding. And all I can say is that to be grounded and in the moment is the only thing that for any of us that's sure. That's that your power. And the minute you lose your power and your stability and your security and inside yourself, then I know it in myself, because I've gone downhill very quickly. You can't stop sleeping. You start waking at 4 a.m, then you start waking at 2 a.m. Your brain's just going. You fall out with people. Somebody upsets you. All you can think about is maybe that family member that said something to you, or you feel upset with people, because I think there's a lot of anger out there at the moment. We saw that with Black Lives Matter, what's going on in the world. Everyone's blaming everyone else. So you have to be very careful. I've had it last weekend. Some nasty stuff happened, and I think you've got to be really careful about keeping yourself, look after yourself first and foremost. Don't get caught up in other people's dramas, because it's hard enough to look after yourself at the moment without trying to, get caught up and look after everybody else. And I even know it with family members. My children are fantastic, but they are, my daughter, she's great, but I could just see it was time for her to go back to London. And, she works for a big accountancy consultancy company, and she's got exams, and she's stressed out, and she stressed us all out. As much as I love her dearly, it was time for her to, go back to and have a bit of time on her own. So I think we have to always be careful about not getting family members and everyone getting on top of us.
So how do you keep the in the moment feeling? How would you, practically, how would you sort of suggest that people try to keep themselves grounded? Because they may not have other people to bounce things off of. So how would you suggest that people keep themselves grounded?
So I happen to do actually healing on people. I'm a healer as well outside of my career. So I would say that one of the most important things is breath. So by breathing in for 3 and breathing out for 6, and your stomach breathing into your lower belly, it's all about feeling grounded. And you can do those techniques. You can do another one that's like a tree. So visualizing from your feet, roots going into the ground, is another one I have to do regularly, which is bring myself into the moment. But the breath, you can do in anything. That's taking a big sigh and just calming down and just bringing everything into the moment and just slowing your brain down. Other people describe when you're thinking too much, drop your thought pattern, drop everything in your head into your heart. And that's when you can start feeling, because too many times we're thinking, everything's going around in our heads. And it's about dropping the thought process into the heart and feeling, get into your feeling so you know how you're feeling. And rather than judging, because we all have tendencies when our thought process isn't particularly positive, we start judging our thoughts. And I would say one of the things you have to try and do, it's a bit like what the Eastern practices look at, the Buddhists, they always say, it doesn't matter what's going through, don't attach yourself to it, right? So if someone's just said something that's upset you, rather than letting your emotions jump on that comment and you're about to go back and have an argument with that person, try and observe. And those techniques, weirdly, if you start practicing in them, you will start feeling you're in control. Yeah, much more grounded, more in control, and not panicking.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So just one other thing, Teresa, if I could just say, is triggers. You have to remember that in ourselves, all of us have unresolved pain from our past, right? It doesn't matter. You could be the most evolved person. We all have unresolved anger, sadness, guilt, fear, hurt. The problem most of us worry about is when we get angry. Actually, those are the moments when you can change. So if someone triggers you and you find yourself getting upset with somebody, the key at that moment is to go into yourself and say, oh my God, why am I feeling upset or sad about what they've just said? And really say to yourself, I want to let go of all my sadness. So what we tend to do is blame everyone else, but you should use those moments to release your own pain. Anyway, that's giving just what I do with people, some insights.
Well, I think that's really, really helpful, because it's a very straightforward and a few words set of ideas that I think could be very helpful for people. Well, it's been great to talk to you today and to hear from Jamie and Liam. Gosh, wow, amazing. And the work that you do with Key for Life, I think is just phenomenal. And it helps so many young men to get through what is clearly an incredibly challenging time in their early lives, when they're incredibly impressionable and very vulnerable. So thank you so much for talking to us. And you were going to share the link, because I can add it into the when I put the video out. The link to the horse riding with
Jamie. Absolutely,
that would be lovely.
We'll get that from Annie. That's amazing. And I think, Teresa, just thank you. And just my little plug for, if people say, we're always looking for mentors. We're in the Southwest and London. But the big thing is 3-day work placements for the likes of Jamie and Liam. And join our United Flag campaign. So if you're a company and you hire somebody, Niall Rogers of Chic launched it last year, and we're awarding in September, October, we start giving companies the flag if they hire an offender. So Thank you, and bless you for including us tonight.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Take care. Thank you so much, Teresa. Bye.
Bye.